talented metal fabricator. He's also changed the game for our age demographic. We've both been doing it a lot, and people talk about engaging millennials and Instagramming and this, that, and the other. And tell me how you've been able to really kind of make yourself a rock star in this industry to guys like me and other builders.
Well, it was more an accident. My friend Dave said, "Why don't we make these videos?" I'm like, nobody's going to want to watch me, and being in front of a camera was so. We make these silly videos as I work. I just talked to Dave. He happens to have a camera in his hand, and we've just about hit 2 million views this year. I didn't think anyone would be interested.
No, it's a neat, phenomenal thing. And as I was talking to you last night, and what I said, Big Joe and I, who's a really talented metal fabricator and all, we were talking about, there's too many lab coat guys out there with their noses in the air going, hey, this is how you do this is how you do that, and this is how this works. And I think the thing for me is, when I first started watching your stuff, I was going, man, this guy's really cool, he's really hilarious, I want to go have a beer with him. And then at the same time, I'm like, well, wait a minute, he just did something that I've been struggling with, as far as metal shaping or doing something, or he's given me a new idea. So it's like, you sucked me in with the personality and being yourself.
Well, I'm glad it worked out for you. But I think
what 2 million other viewers.
That might be the same person,
right.
2 million times. But the good thing is, I think people are finding what I do accessible. It's like you said, the lab coat guys, and I've brought it back to the level, in my opinion, it should be. Just fucking build it.
Right. So how you've been into motorcycles a long time. I saw some pictures of you. You were supposedly like 14, but you looked identical to how you look right now at 14. So tell me, like, what got you into actually wanting to shape your own stuff? And again, for those guys in the crowd or those guys just coming, one of Craig's creations is sitting right here. Get up close to this thing. It's got tons of little stuff that you wouldn't expect. But what got you into this? What got you like, hey man, I want to build my own bike?
Well, growing up in Australia, it's the tyranny of distance. We didn't have access to all the parts. We'd get all the American magazines and say, oh, we'd see this, and we couldn't get it. We didn't have the money, and to get it there was hard. So we just make everything. And that's, you'll find a lot of, you look at other people from New Zealand and Australia, some of the great build, like Burt Munro and Britain. It's the same thing. It's just do it.
So a couple of things there, I think, that are similar for us. I got into high riding and performance motorcycles. And again, my dad, I never wanted for anything, but we were medium line, blue collar guys. So if I wanted to go faster or buy those parts, I either needed to make them, or I needed to figure out somebody that could make them, or take used parts and redo them. Another thing too that you just mentioned here, you're actually from Australia, not just the Great Lakes, because I always thought you were just from like Wisconsin or something.
Well, most people think I'm from Connecticut because I say park the car and things like that. But no, I'm from Melbourne, Australia originally. I've been here for 25 years.
So what brought you from Australia to the United States?
An airplane.
An airplane, right.
And no, I used to,
or some sort of...
no, I used to come here and buy motorcycles and take it back to Australia. And then...
they wouldn't let you back in Australia?
No, I moved around. I met a woman and got married, and now I'm divorced and happy.
That's all right. So what goes into something like this? What year bike is this? Tell me about the frame and the engine. Let's start there.
Well, it's basically the frame is modified slightly. The engine's pretty stock, but it was the cool thing about a Goldwing, and this is what I like, is you take...
What year Goldwing?
It's a 79. It's a late 79, so it's 1100 cc. And I got it for a couple of $100. Was sitting in my shop for a long time. There's a kid working for me. I said, why don't you go and take that thing apart and we'll do something with it. And it started with a tank cover. Then, well, we'll make a different tank. We'll make the C. I hate the Comstar mag, so we made covers for the mags, and it just kept going. And I think I enjoy taking something that's... I'm not saying Goldwings are ugly ducklings, but...
They're an ugly duckling.
Thank you. And so I wanted to take away completely from what an original Goldwing looked like, and a lot of people don't even realize it's a Goldwing.
No, it doesn't. It almost, with the way that you polish the sides and all, it almost looks like some sort of custom motor even, you know what I mean? That's what's neat, because unless you're a Goldwing fan, you really sometimes can't, a lot of people even into motorcycles can't walk up and go, oh, that's a Goldwing. And with the frame modifications on the back, I mean, you've definitely changed the overall look, so tell me about this. You told me that the tank's hidden underneath the seat. I got a beautiful woman there in a camo hat. Lift that seat up there for the folks so they can see up underneath there as Craig describes what's going on here.
Well, what it is with Gold Wings, where the tank would be, it's a faux tank on all of them. It's just a cover, and the tanks are normally under the seat. Well, the original one hung out the side, so I made a new one, and then made it smaller, and I wanted to make it all compact.
So, tell me about compact, because you're using words here just to clarify for these guys. You kind of come from a performance background, right?
Somewhat, yes.
But you like speed. You like them to work. You like them.
Oh, absolutely. It's the marriage of form and function. When I build something,
that's what I wanted you to say.
Right. It's you've always got to compromise one from the other. So I always try and get it where it's the least amount of compromisation, if that makes sense.
So we talked yesterday with a couple builders, and some of us feel like we all know it's never really done, or sometimes you just got to draw the line and say, hey, that's a compromise on that. What's your favorite thing about this motorcycle? What are you most proud that you came up with, created, or made?
I think the gas tank underneath the seat is to fit that so the wheel can fit, so the wheel won't hit it when the suspension goes up. That was a little tricky.
Yeah. But I like the little grill thing you did on the side. I mean, there's tons of little details too where, I think it's really neat with a guy like Craig that can take something that's so simple and make it seem so simple, yet when it draws you in, at least for me, I'm like, oh wow, that's really difficult to do. And what was the most thing that you would change or that you're not as happy with on this thing?
The front wheel covers, they've got little ripples in them. They're not, when you ride down the road, you can see them wobble a little bit.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Yeah. I'd have to see you riding down the road on that. They look pretty perfect to me, Craig.
Well, thank you.
So going back to your Insta fame, has that changed the game for you a bit, or is your phone ringing off the hook? I mean, what's happening?
Yeah, it has a little bit. I mean, going to the hand build show earlier this year, and I took that dustbin Moto Guzzi I built and sold it then and there, which changed things financially for me. I was broke. And then Moto Guzzi approached me, and they commissioned me to build a V9 for them, and I think the exposures definitely helped me. But,
yeah. Well, and again, I knew who you were, going into Austin, and I think we kind of knew each other just from the scenes, but it never really got to talk. And one of the things too, we've been talking to all the vendors and all the spectators too. I couldn't believe, I hear it, about everybody, but I couldn't believe how approachable you were even when I walked up. And the biggest thing for me, if I toot my own horn, is when I shook your hand, I was like trying to introduce myself. You're like, yeah, I know who you were. And it was like sense of camaraderie right away. So I encourage any builders or anybody out there in the crowd, as you see Craig walking around, make sure and shake our hands, say hi, say something like that. I mean, and definitely, how do people find you on Instagram, or how can the normal person go find one of your videos?
Just Craig Rodsmith on Instagram or Rodsmith Motorcycles on Facebook.
And I got to tell you, I'm not blowing smoke here. I mean, my level of fabrication with different things and machining and kind of building bikes, I'm kind of anal with geometry and all. And I'll say this as honestly could be, I've actually watched some of the Craig stuff and then gone and watched even a little bit more of it just to see how he was doing something that I've wanted to try and don't know how to. And I think that's what's really neat about the sharing of information, whether it's riding faster or doing anything like that. And that's what's neat about this community, what Ace Cafe Orlando is bringing to that community down there, and really for the whole nation, giving guys like you the opportunity to not be rock stars, as a joke, but to be able to share the craft.
Right, I completely agree, and I think that's a good thing. For a little while in the industry, there was so much divisiveness, and I think because of these shows now and social media, it's gotten back to the people working together and helping each other out, and the camaraderie.
Well, I agree, and it's important, though, as that camaraderie grows of us, that we don't close off like they did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Because the chopper scene, no offense to it, is a good example of, they all started, hey, I met you in California, I met you in this, and then they started kind of turning their shoulders in towards each other. And one of the things that I really like about what you're talking about is inspiring new people. And one thing I heard you say in one video, I think, about a side cover was, hey, you can do this yourself. Here's how I did it.
Absolutely.
And inclusive, and being inclusive to all these things.
Well, that's the whole thing. Everything that I do, you do, everyone does. Anyone's capable of doing it.
I don't polish anything.
How much? I don't like. I just like. But that's the point. It's like anything. Do these things that you don't like to get the final result.
Right. And it's definitely some cool stuff, man. And I tell you, the fact of the sense of pride you take in your stuff and even riding it in here, a good, rideable, fun-looking bike, you know, I'd love to take it out on a highway and get on it. I think that's all important. And again, even some of my friends, even myself, sometimes we build bikes, and I know you've probably done it, that are unrideable, or, you know, we went too far. And that's another thing that I really admire about you, too, is like everything you got, you're like, hey, man, I can't wait to get this section done because I'm going to go rip the hell out of it.
Exactly. It's that, like I was saying, the marriage between form and function. And not first and foremost, they've got to be able to be ridden. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? It's a paperweight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, man, unless you want to ask me any personal questions or anything like that, I think it's time for our hug. You know, and
I think so.
Get you out of here, right? So, you know, I get a full hug before I go off stage. All right, Craig. Thanks, man.